What's up, guys? Sam Dillinger, My Check Engine Light TV, and we're back. So this is going to be the 5th episode. This week, we're actually going to talk about something a lot more advanced this week. This is for my people out there that actually do your own electrical diag professionals. There's going to be some really good information in here for you this week if you actually do this for a living on a day-to-day basis. There's some stuff in here that I've been told for years and years, and I always just believed it because I was told by really credible people, and it's not true. I genuinely didn't know that until I was about to do an episode on this stuff, and I started looking at my equipment and started running some tests off the camera, and what I was seeing didn't make any sense to me. So I actually got out all of my test equipment, just like I was doing an electrical problem, and I figured out where all of my issues are. So that's what I wanted to show you guys today. So, okay, let's start out with the basics, right? Here, obviously, you can see we have a wiring harness. Normally, you're not this lucky to be able to diagnose electrical problems on the bench. I understand that that's not really going to translate to what you do, but it's the same concept. So first, everybody starts out with their own meter, right? Like you got the regular fluke meter here. Just a note about the leads on the fluke meter. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. I believe they even sell it for the negative lead now, but all this is, there is a fuse inside of here, just a 20 amp regular sized car fuse. So it goes right in line with your test lead. That way, instead of blowing the $30 fuse inside of here, you can blow this first. And when you begin electrical diagnosis, right, you've scanned it or you have a system that's acting up or not working, any of those things, I guess probably for what I'm going to show you today, we'll go with not working or barely working. So first thing that we always do is grab our own meter, right? We're going to get the leads here, and you would just isolate your circuit just like anything else, and then you're going to test the ohms, okay? So let's do that. This is just a random circuit that I traced down. You guys actually would have been laughing at me, honestly, if you had seen me trying to chase this thing down. I'm out here sweating and going through all of these connectors trying to find a single circuit. It took me forever. Normally it doesn't take that long, but for whatever reason, this one was not being very friendly to me. However, I did prevail. That's the key there. So we'll turn this on, make sure that my circuit is still connected, and we're good. Also, just what I'm doing here, I just cut a jumper wire, actually, is all I did. And I skinned the ends of it because you can go into any of these pins with a wire. You're not going to damage anything that way. You know, they always tell us don't probe the pins for like a PCM connector or something like that. So if you need something, I don't know, I'll show you it in a minute. I actually have like some pins and stuff like that for testing very small, like PCM style pins. But if you're in a pinch, a regular piece of wire will work great. And then this end, you skin it and lay it around, like wrap it around your leads. That way you can have your hands free. So you see right there, we've got 0.5 ohms, right? Here, let me just set this right here. Okay, so we have 0.5 ohms, 0.4 ohms, kind of oscillates back and forth a little bit. But the key is, that's not a lot of resistance, right? And so that says that that circuit is working. Here's where we get into some complicated problems. And I'm sure if you've done this for any length of time or ever tried to chase an electrical problem on your own, you've done things like this and gotten that reading, and it says in the diagnostic flow chart or anywhere that you read about electrical diag that if you're at, say, 5 ohms or less, you're good. That circuit's working fine. You don't have to worry about that. That's not true, and that's one of the things that I'm here to show you. So This circuit, for actually, since we're showing this circuit, let's also then do this. A lot of us over the years have spent time using a fog light bulb. This one's a little beat up, but I've had it for a long time. So, and here I actually just had the connector and I soldered some ends on it and soldered some alligator clips to it because it's just super useful. So what we're gonna do then is hook this up. We're gonna run this all through the ground. Also, if you don't have one, you gotta get one, man. Get it off the internet, off the tool truck, buy it from powerprobe.com, whatever. And just so that everybody is aware, I'm not endorsing PowerProbe. I don't get paid by them, anything like that. But this tool right here is absolutely essential for doing electrical diag. You can't live without it. So anyways, back to what I was saying. We're gonna go through the ground side, okay? So we're just gonna hook up to here. And on this side is where we're gonna hook up for power. One of the most awesome things that PowerProbe did is they give you this additional ground. This thing is amazing. I can add a ground to anything without having to use this. So if I'm right, if I have this hooked up correctly, we should be able to light this bulb. Yeah, so you see that we have that lit, yeah? We also have this circuit just barely held together. So that's one of the things that I wanted to look at. I actually skinned this down to a single piece of copper because that's what we've always been told, right? Is that if you have a single strand of copper, your fluke meter isn't gonna pick that up. You can still get the same 0.4 or 0.5 ohms with a single strand of copper, provided that there's no corrosion. But will your load device work? No, is what they tell us. So they say that you use something that takes a lot of juice to fire, which would be a headlight bulb or a fog light bulb. And actually, just to show you that it's the same thing, I'm gonna hook this headlight bulb up too and do the exact same thing with it. Where's my ground? Oh wait, I just hooked up the ground. Yeah, right, here we go. So make that a circuit and we'll not have those touch each other. We'll also not have that laying directly on the metal bench. And then we'll come over here. Also, just another note about the PowerProbe. When you have ground, like when you've got a completed circuit, your green light is gonna light. So when you're trying to do something like this, you'll know if you have it hooked up or not. So there you see, we're lighting it, right? And you've already seen that we have something here that would possibly be a load problem. So why is that? Why is it that we can hook these things up that we've been told all this time that is going to do this? So why is that? Why is it that we've been told that all this time, that these take a lot of juice to fire, so they'll actually be able to be useful to us in electrical diagnosis? And it's not. So as I was trying to determine some of these things, this is what I found. So again, we're going to turn on our ohm meter because now, at least in my mind, we have an electrical problem. The electrical problem being that this shouldn't be able to work based on everything I've always been told. So I have this, and I'll show you even what the bulb looks like. I have this fog light bulb right here. We've always been told that's high impedance. Oh, come on. Really? I swear, you guys, I really am a mechanic. Go in your home. Yeah, there we go. Right? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I hooked up my leads to it. We have 0.3 to 0.4 ohms of resistance in this light that we've always been told should take a lot, right? Well, now I can see that it doesn't. That's not the case. So, and just for the fun of it, let's hook up this one and see. What you're going to see is that we have just barely a little bit more, I think, like just barely. And this is a headlight bulb that, again, same thing. I was always told fog light bulb, but a headlight bulb would be even better. And I've actually had conversations with engineers about this and stuff, and they have always, I've never heard anybody say that this won't work. And what I have found is that it does not. So, come on. Stay right there. And you do the thing. Right. 0.4. So, what's that? That's not doing us any good at all, right? Like if they say that the spec is anything 5 ohms and above, you don't have 5 ohms here. You're not going to be able to find that. And so to prove that, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to put this down to a single strand of wire, or maybe 2. Yeah, no, actually I'm going to use literally a single strand of wire. Let's see if you guys can see this without me breaking it. But there you see, we have, okay, let me try and move this a bit closer to you. Hopefully you guys can see right in between there, there is a single strand of wire. So, you see we have a single strand of wire there, right? Now, let's try this again. We'll use the fog light bulb just because it's got clips on it, and it's just kind of what I've always used anyways. So I like this one. Okay, yeah, that end we're going to feed power to, and this end is going to, wait, where did I put it at? This end, where's the other end? Was I? Oh yeah, right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to put power to this guy here. And on this end, we're going to hook up the ground. So we'll send that through my load device. And love this thing. So awesome. Right. Green light means we have it completed circuit. Still, on a single strand of wire. Single strand. Light a fog light bulb, no problem. How's that going to aid in diagnostics? Because right there, that is definitely a problem. If that's in the car, there's no chance that that system is going to operate correctly. But as I'm diagnosing this, I'm going to go right past that by all of the diagnostic information that they give me in the book, or that you can find about electrical diagnosing anywhere. They're going to tell me that that reading is okay, and that this is now even beyond okay, because I've checked it with my own meter and I've checked it with this fog light bulb. I can move on. That's not going to be my problem, except obviously it is. So now we're going to take a look at a couple of different things. I was able to figure out a few different ways that can help. So I guess we're going to do some setup, and from there we're going to come back and I'm going to show you a few different ways that will be able to help you track down a problem like this. All right, guys, so we have this set up now. We're, well, mostly ready to set up, I guess, because I'm going to show you how I'm doing this and what and why. So we're going after the single-stranded wire. Like, this is a nightmare. This is literally the definition of an electrical nightmare that we have all been into, or, good Lord willing, you won't have to get into. So here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to show you by the end of this what I have found is going to work best for chasing down an actual single-stranded wire. I'm going to show you what doesn't work first, because all of the stuff that they tell you works doesn't actually work the way that they tell you that it does. So here we go. First, I have a relay. Right? We all know relays switch on and off a load device. And what I'm going to do is use this pin right here to hold my relay closed, and I'm going to actually just set that down on here for right now so that it's not touching anything. And there's my lead. Oh wait, I don't need that though. Yeah, okay, good. And now we're going to put the ohm meter on there. And I will get this up here where everyone can see it. Hey, get out of there. All right, let's take a look here. So we have 74.5 ohms. That's pretty decent resistance. That's definitely well above our 5 ohm resistance that they tell us is not going to be good, right? So let's put this into our circuit, again, with a single strand of wire, right? We have that just single stranded. So let's put that into the circuit and let's see what we get with now 74.5 ohms of resistance plus 0.3, so just under. And that goes in there. Okay. Right, that's my power side over there. We can turn that off. Get this guy out of the way for a minute. Having all these wires floating around here does tend to confuse the issue a little bit. Hey, what are you doing? It is unauthorized. Okay, and here's my relay. So we're feeding this through this way, and we're coming through the light and the relay to ground. Okay, so we want to come in this way. This would actually be the power feed on this side of it. And then somewhere, yeah, here we go. Nope, that needs to go to ground. Oh, sorry, that's already going to ground. Yeah, okay, here we go. That's going to complete the circuit. So, you know what? I have an idea. Sometimes you just got to improvise, guys. Just make it work. There we go. Now, I'm going to watch here, right? Got the green light. And let's actually watch this relay. Let's wait until you guys can actually see that good. Okay, so, and hopefully you can hear that closing. You can see I'm feeding voltage to it. Now let's take a look at this light though, and take a look at this whole circuit, right? So I have everything hooked up. You can see that I'm coming through to ground, and what's the light doing? Nothing. My relay is closing. The light doesn't even get a glimmer. So, which, I mean, let's be realistic about this. We already knew 75 ohms is way too much for a circuit like this, right? But interestingly enough, 75 ohms is not enough on a single strand to not light this. And therein lies one of the key problems. I mean, if you saw with your ohm meter that this was at 75 ohms, then you're going to say, okay, yeah, obviously I have a problem here. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that it may not show up the same way that you think before you get out your ohm meter. And again, that single strand of wire is not going to be enough to stop you from a higher resistance load device. That will work. If I didn't have this light in here, this works. Whatever it's controlling does not. So that's one of the key things that I wanted to show there. But now, here's another interesting thing that I found out in this whole process. What does it take to actually have just enough resistance so that it's going to start shutting the circuit down? Because that's what they tell us, is that you use one of these devices and it's going to be dim if you only have a single strand of wire. So let's find out, what does that actually take? Well, I'll save you the boredom of watching me fumble around with this for a while. What actually I found is that if I hook these two together, and when I do this, we're going to just check our ohms first so that we can see what kind of resistance that we're working with. And okay, that, all right, goes through there, and I want it to come through here to ground, right into there, out through here. So what am I missing? This still doesn't make sense. Yeah, right? Yeah, okay. We're gonna try this because I'm pretty sure this is right. I don't know why it doesn't seem right in my head, but let's just take a whack at it real quick and see what we get. And you'll see too, mostly I'm trying to keep all this stuff off the bench because like this doesn't matter. This is ground. Doesn't matter if a ground is laying on a ground. And so I just want to make sure that we're not getting a false connection somewhere. Okay, so apparently I did figure it out correctly. You can see that the light is green, right? So, and so now look at what our lights are doing. Wait, you can't see that one. So now you see those are just barely lighting up, right? Now I'm going to show you two more things about this in particular. First, let's check and see what kind of resistance are we working with in this circuit now. And we don't need all of that stuff. We're just going to put these two together, just the two lights together, and we'll see what we come up with. That's weird, it's not reading what it was before. Could be temperature related. So what you're seeing here is that we have 0.6 ohms. So we had 0.4 or 0.3, it's lighting just fine. And now we have 0.6, and you saw what it's doing. Now it's starting to just barely work. And now we're gonna leave this hooked up right here so that we can watch this. And what I'm gonna do is put this back to a full strand of wire. We're gonna put this back just as if there was never a wiring problem here at all. So let's twist this guy back together. And what do we got there? Exactly the same thing, right? 0.6 ohms. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate here, is that this single strand wire doesn't really have any effect. If you have too much resistance by a lot, then it's not gonna work. Like, you might be able to make a portion of the circuit work correctly, but it's not gonna work with 75 ohms. But with 0.4, it works just fine, 0.4, 0.3, whatever. With 0.6, 7, 8, 9, like that, because earlier when I did this, it was actually reading at 0.9. I assume that it's probably temperature related that changed the resistance that we're seeing now. So why is that though? Why is it that now I have two load devices in series, so it should share the same voltage and be able to light correctly with just my 12 volts? But it can't with the 0.6 ohms. What you're gonna end up finding is that as you go through this, you can add just a little bit and it will start to decrease the circuit. But the single wire, that's not what's causing your problem. It's more resistance somewhere else in the circuit, something like that. And to be fair, to illustrate how you're actually gonna see a single stranded wire is because this is broken through whatever. The seat went over it and crushed it, or somebody drove a screw through it trying to put in a speaker or whatever like that. And you're gonna find it because of corrosion. Usually when you see it like that, you're gonna check it with the ohm meter. It's gonna be a completely open circuit, or it's gonna have like 200 ohms, something crazy like that. We obviously know that's no good. It's not gonna work. But again, like I said, single stranded wire, it will do all of the things that you want it to do until you get just barely over 0.3, 0.4 ohms. And that's not what they tell us. They tell us 5. So that's one of the key things that I really wanted to illustrate here, is that this method that they've always told us to use isn't going to work. So Now we're gonna take just a minute here and I'm gonna get this set back up so that we can look at where we're gonna go with this to how we're gonna find this. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up now. So how do you find a single stranded wire, right? Like if you've done all these tests and you see you barely need any resistance to make the circuit malfunction, how do you find it? This is what you do. You make an overlay harness, is what they call it, right? So wherever that's at, so you would just literally come here, you have to skin the wire back kind of far, like give yourself enough room to work with in case it doesn't work or that's not where your problem is. You can actually just come back and solder the wire back together. So you would just like that, come over here, same thing, give yourself enough room to work with, and then skin the wire, and then you would just hook it up here, right? So now what you have done is completed this circuit, except you don't have to go through all of this mess. Now you have an overlay harness, right? So go back and test it. And if you did have a single strand of wire in there somewhere, that's gonna fix your problem. Now you know, at that point, you can either trace the circuit down. Some people do. They'll actually break open the entire harness. You actually, by a lot of engineers and like actually manufacturers, this is an acceptable repair, not like this. You actually would have to strand it together correctly, solder it, heat shrink it, tape it back to the harness, so on and so forth. So, but that is an acceptable repair, or you replace the harness. So that is everything that we have for today, guys. This is how you determine your electrical nightmare, your single stranded wire. This is how you solve it. Make sure that you come and check us out at mycheckenginelight.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're gonna have a lot more great stuff coming for you soon, guys. We'll see you out there.